I'm Josh Lipton, and I commute by bike. I'm here in Austin, Texas at the North American Handmade Bike Show. I'm here with Aaron Dykstra of 611 Bicycles.
How you doing?
Pretty good. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. Show's going pretty well.
Excellent.
Yeah, having a great time. Austin's great.
Yeah.
Really like it.
Great little city.
Yeah, it's a good biking town.
Yep. All right, I'll dive right in. How did you become a cyclist?
I've always been into bikes as long as I can remember. Obviously, as a kid, it's always, a toy, a source of inspiration. As I became a teenager, got really into skateboarding. It's 13, 14. I used to skateboard for really long distance. I grew up in Roanoke, Virginia, which is not a giant town, but population of 100,000. And I got passed by a guy every day when I would skateboard downtown on a bike, and he stopped me one day and said, "Hey, you really need to get a bike. It's a much faster way of getting around."
Right.
And he got me a used 1991 Specialized stump jumper as my first bike, and started riding that, and just immediately fell in love. Got really into mountain bike racing as a junior. Got into a little bit of road racing, and just from that point on, from basically 14, 15 years old on, I was in the shops. I was kind of a shop rat, working in bike shops, turning wrenches, and it's kind of been my story ever since. After a while, you kind of reach your pinnacle of turning wrenches, and you want to, you get bored, you want to move forward and do something else. Did a little joint in the military. I was working on F-15s for a while and really enjoyed working on some more advanced stuff. And when I got out, missed bikes, started working on bikes again. Really wanted to take it to the next level, and that's when I decided to start building, and went and studied under Yamaguchi a few years ago, and really had a great experience there, and spent about a year held up in my basement working full time, building, and just kind of perfecting my craft as much as I could, and then been doing it ever since. So
nice.
Yeah, it's really a passion.
Yeah. All right. Do you commute by bike?
I do. I'm fortunate enough, my shop is about a mile and a half away from my shop, so I've got a really great, easy commute, and not a load of bike lanes in Roanoke, but it's in the past handful of years we've gotten so many more, and I'm fortunate enough to have a nice wide bike lane the entire way, and it's great. I've lived in New York City for years. I lived in Chicago for a while, and it's really nice being somewhere different where really bike friendly area where you can bike year round without having any issues. I got one bike with fenders on it, and use it maybe once a month. Everything else just kind of take out whatever you want. It's always fun.
What is your commute like?
It's a pretty easy, downhill one way, uphill the other, which is on the wrong end, unfortunately. I like to start the other way around, right. But that's good. It keeps me in the shop longer because I put off the uphill ride home, so it works out.
Right. Cool.
Yeah.
Yep. And you don't get as sweaty on the way to work.
No, it's really fortunate. Going there, you're, like I said, downhill. It's quick, and get there before I bust a sweat. And usually by the time I get to the shop, I'm working anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Right. Tell me how your work as a frame builder relates to bicycle advocacy.
I've always been a huge fan of advocacy. When I was living in New York, I was a volunteer with Transportation Alternatives. When I was in Chicago, I actually worked for the Chicago Bike Federation as their event planner for a while. Really enjoyed that. Gave me a real appreciation for the riders in addition to just the bike itself, and what a town can do for cyclists, and what advancing that really does for the community as a whole, which is really exciting. So coming back to Roanoke, my hometown, went and moved back there, a little over 3 years ago. Really was really nice going back armed with that knowledge and that appreciation of what it's like riding in New York. Back before they had all those great bike lanes, the Dutch style bike lanes that were put in, or the whatever you want to call them. So going back to kind of with a fresh idea, you really develop an appreciation for what it's like to be in a bad bike community and what it's like to be in a good bike community, and how to make yours better. So that was really great. And it's exciting seeing a small town like Roanoke progress. We just got named on the bicycle friendly cities list for the first time. It was a huge achievement. So definitely excited about that. As
related to your business, what are the most important costs and benefits that you must consider when putting your time into bicycle advocacy?
I really, especially like leading up to a show like this, it takes so much. I've just been working absolutely insane hours.
Oh, yeah.
So it certainly takes away from what you can do volunteer time. I don't think you'll talk to anybody here that is in bike building for the money. So that's one thing that's really changed. It's hard to donate anything besides your time, really, which is really worth more than money in the long run as far as advocacy goes. But just being out there and being a part of the community and creating a larger presence is really important. And you always gotta take time. I have to tell myself a lot of times to get out of the shop and go out on a little group ride, or just go out. If kids are playing bike polo, just anything, just to get out there and really just give the community more of an image and more of an impact in the town.
Would you choose 3 concepts to describe an ideal commuter bike?
Geez, I think it's kind of established at this point for a lot of people. I've got, obviously, my bikes, I put so much work into. My personal bike that I commute on most days is a beat up old Pinarello cyclocross bike with cantilevers on there and a big basket on front and a bell. So, what I would have called a dorky bike when I was younger, is just the kind of the perfect bike. You have platforms on there in the winter, so I can ride with boots if it's snowy or anything like that. Usually don't have fenders on a bike. I've got one bike with fenders on it, but they usually end up rattling or getting bent when I lean it up. So not a huge fender guy unless it's raining, but I do have it there just in case. And other than that, there's certainly ideals, and I'm not always going to go with that for myself, just because I'm giving 110% of everything I have to the business right now. So if that means me riding a beat up old bike and building beautiful ones, that's the name of the game. But I'm pretty excited about this one, actually, because this is of all the bikes here, this is the only one that doesn't have an owner, and I kind of built this one for myself, and it's going to be a great commuter bike. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, it looks like it. Definitely.
Yeah, it'll be a good bike to travel with as well. It's coupled, which is great. You can throw it in a backpack. This is really exciting because I got a copy of a prototype of Gates Carbon Drive new center track system, which is a new version of the belt drive system. It really is an interesting design, and I look forward to doing some extensive R&D when in commuting. But with travel, it makes so much sense to have a belt on there, because you can get a backpack from S&S Machine Works, take it apart, put it in there. If you have the belt, like a sealed Chris King headset, you have no grease points at that point. So you can throw it in there. It's a clean assembly. It's lightweight at that point. The belt is a lot of fun. It makes for a nice snappy ride, and don't have to worry about oiling the chain or anything like that. And it's a lot of fun to ride around.
Yeah. Cool.
Kind of the ideal commuter.
What are the majority of your bikes used for?
I've built a little bit of everything. I've found myself building more cyclocross bikes than anything else, and they always end up getting raced, which is always cool to see your bike out there in competition. It's definitely a different world than commuting, so it's good to get a little bit of everything. But every bike is different, and being that every bike is a complete custom from the ground up, it's cool to see how the end execution ends up, as far as where it's going to go and what its life's going to be and all that.
Yeah. Cool. If money was no object, what bicycle accessories would you integrate into the bicycle frame, and which would you build mounting points for?
Like I said, fenders are great. Not a huge fender guy, and I'm really fortunate in the sense of I have the skills and just the facility to be able to really play around and kind of play around with that and do some wacky stuff. So really, ideally, this I kind of built this as my personal ideal commuter.
Oh, cool.
And it's it really works out great. I love having the Paul racer brakes on there that mount directly to the frame. Really nice stiff braking power. The setup is super easy on there. I did a really nice integrated handlebar setup on there that's built to my own specifications, so super comfortable. The only change I may do to that down the road may add a little front rack on there, but I personally really like riding with a backpack just to kind of keep the weight on my body and off the bike. I've got a grocery bike, so that's that's it. That's the one thing about being a bike builder and kind of being in the bike industry is you can always find an excuse to get another bike. So
right.
I've got way too many purpose-built bikes. So this will be a great
all-rounder.
All-rounder for sure.
Yeah. I want to talk a little about electric bikes.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about the constraints and/or opportunity for adding electric assist systems to your bikes?
You know, to be completely honest, I don't have a lot of experience with electric bikes. My personal feeling is the bike is really, you know, for the past, you know, however many hundred years, it's nearly a perfect design in almost any way, and I feel like adding a motor may be great for some, and I'm all for it if it gets people out on bikes. I think eventually, if that gets somebody on bikes, they're eventually going to get on a bike without a motor, because, you know, I'm not familiar enough with the technology to speak firmly on it, but I feel like, you know, a perfectly set up bike with gears is all you really need, and it would really take you further than an electric bike will. But I'm all for it if it gets more people out there. So
cool.
Can't hate on it at all.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on commuting bike design trends that have been picked up by the big players in the cycling industry?
You know, you really see a lot of trends that kind of start in the handmade world, because again, you know, we have the freedom to really kind of design on the fly with a lot of stuff, which is great. And if larger manufacturers want to kind of jump on that, I'm all for it. I'm sure some people are like, you know, bummed out when they see something they've worked on, and I can totally understand that. But I think the end result, the more people on bikes, is the better, and you know, whatever it takes at that point.
Definitely. Well, we've already gone over quite a few of the features here, but just to kind of wrap up here, imagine that I'm a potential buyer, and were there any other features you might show me on this bike? You know,
it's like I said about, you know, throwing that in a backpack, it really makes for, you know, the perfect travel bike. It's you know, it all depends. The world of custom bikes is really so specific that you know, it's such a case-by-case scenario that there really is no blanket thing. You know, it's custom from the ground up, so anything you wanted would be absolutely feasible. You know, within reasons, of course. You know, but that's the great thing about a custom bicycle is, you know, we can suit it to your terrain, to your riding style, to, you know, if you're bringing a lot of stuff to work, if you need a place to put your lock, if you're going to be locking it up, you know, the paint. All those variables are easy to figure out and nail down, and make the perfect bike for you.
Great. Well, Aaron, I wanted to thank you for showing us your great work.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming out here.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
Excellent. Enjoy the show.
Yeah, I'm Josh Lipton, and I commute by bike.